Hello, we are so excited to have this amazing interview today. We're talking all things legal with Christy. Thank you, Christy, for coming on.
Of course, of course. Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we have some juicy questions today, but before we get into all things legal, I would love to know more about you. So, can you tell us a little bit more about you?
Yes, yes. So I am a California licensed attorney and legal resource for online entrepreneurs and coaches. So basically, what that means is I get to help anybody that has an online business or a brick and mortar small business with the legal side of things. That includes the documents. That includes information on international data privacy, which we all need to comply with. As well as just the general ins and outs of, do I need a business entity? How do I do this? What about trademarks? Kind of all the things that tend to come up as a small business owner, especially if you have a digital presence. There's a lot of things. So I specialize in all of that, and it's been a great ride so far. I absolutely love what I do. I've been doing this for coming up on 4 years. I've been an attorney since 2012. Was doing the typical corporate attorney gig, and then had the realization that I'm sure many of you have had, where you want control of your own life and you want to be able to, do your own thing. I have two small kids now, so at the time I was thinking, you know what, I want to be able to set my own schedule when I have kids, which I now get to do, and build my own practice around working with amazing clients I love, customers I love. Teaching has really become a passion of mine, and being able to just spread the legal knowledge around the online space to other women and men that are ultimately doing the same thing that I was doing, trying to build an online presence, trying to build a business, and bring in money while you're doing what you want to do.
I love that. I've literally been on so many coaching calls where they're like, how do I protect myself? What do I need to do? And so this is so needed what you do.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I can't wait to get it out to as many entrepreneurs as possible, because I feel like it's not the sexy things to talk about in business, but it is absolutely necessary that we're continuing to protect not only our families, but also our business too.
Yeah, yeah, and it can be. I totally agree that it's not the sexy chat that's going to make you a millionaire tomorrow. But I do think it really does have a huge piece um, in terms of building your business and becoming a CEO. A lot of people report back that once they get this legal stuff figured out, once they get the right things in place, they're so much more confident. They're so much more empowered, and they find that they present their offers, more authentically, less, they're not hesitant, because they know they're covered. They know their contract is good. They know they're not accidentally breaking the law. They genuinely want to be found and seen and work with people because they know that the back end is taken care of. And that's the best part about what I do. I mean, it's very cool to be able to support other women and men in this endeavor, and to be able to help make them more confident and empowered CEOs.
I love that. So before we get into some juicy questions, what do you think is the number one thing every entrepreneur needs to know from a legal perspective?
Oh, geez, there's tons. I mean, from broadly speaking, the number one thing to know is that it's a thing. Like, you cannot put it off. You cannot wait until you've hit a certain revenue point. It becomes important, and you become on the radar of the FTC, clients, whatever, from the very moment that you hit publish on your website or you take on your first client. There's no period of time where you're under the radar. There's no period of time where you aren't going to get in trouble, or you're not exposing yourself to liability, whether it's your first client and your first dollar or your 1 million. A lot of
Yeah.
people have kind of that misconception that it's something they're going to worry about later. And that kills me every time, because the majority of people that end up on the wrong end of a legal battle are the new ones, right? Because they didn't have it in place. They didn't quite know what they were doing. Maybe they accidentally or unintentionally broke a law, violated someone else's IP, that, they did something unintentional. and it ends up costing them $30, $40, $50,000, and they're wiped out, they're out of business before they even got out of the gate. So my big soapbox preach is to get this stuff done in the beginning. Like the cost to get it done right in the beginning is so minimal compared to potential legal fees. Like a business lawsuit average cost is 90 grand. And 9 months or so of litigation back and forth. So I always say, if you think you can't afford the $1,200 or the whatever it's going to cost you to get it set up right, maybe switch that to like, okay, but do I want a lawsuit or a fine that could ultimately be 100 times the amount? Not to open with a scary moment, but just a reality moment that we're not, we don't really get a free pass as a new business owner, unfortunately. The FTC and clients are going to, they're going to look at us the same, whether we've been in business for 1 minute or 10 years. So that's definitely my number one, is just if you haven't done it, do it. Don't make it optional.
I love that. Well, and you're watching this right now. So if we know better, we can do better. So after you watch this, don't be overwhelmed. Spring into action and let's do something about it, which we'll talk about at the end with Christy. So let's get into some Q&A. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
Awesome. So Leslie's question is, what policies do I need on my website?
Love this one. Okay. So 3 things you need on your website. Privacy policy, website disclaimer, website terms and conditions. The privacy policy is the one that's legally required to be on our websites. So this is the one that's kind of the hot button. A lot of big companies have gotten in trouble for data privacy issues. This is kind of a relevant topic as the digital marketing space creates opportunities for people to be sketchier with data, or for people to have greater access, do some crazy things with marketing and data. We ourselves fall into that category, even if we're not like, using people's Facebook message audio to market to them or whatever some companies are doing these days. But anyway, data privacy is hugely vital. So the privacy policy is the way we make sure that we're compliant with that. There's a few other things that we need to do for data privacy, but to answer the question, privacy policy is the number one thing you need on your website. This is the document that tells people what information we're collecting, why we're collecting it, how they can be removed from our email list, if we're going to share this data with anybody. So if we're like doing a joint summit and that person's getting the emails or whatever we're doing, we have to disclose that information. Same with marketing strategies. If you're using like Facebook pixels to track people where they're clicking, or if you're creating lookalike audiences, if you're uploading your email list and creating lookalike audiences that way, you have to disclose those things because you have to tell people, I'm going to use your data in this way. The FTC has said, this is the law. You have to disclose how you're using it. And we as consumers want that, right? We want to know, hey, if you're going to sell my email list to 10 people who are going to start emailing me a bunch of stuff I don't want, or if you're going to use my email in some way, I feel I need to know about it. So if you flip that around, we're now the business owners. We have that same responsibility to tell our group, our consumers, how we're going to use their data. So that's the privacy policy. The other 2 are not legally required in the sense that you're not going to be fined for not having one. The privacy policy, you will. The other 2 are just very good from a business perspective to protect yourself and to protect your website. So the disclaimer is the written equivalent of saying, please check with your doctor or lawyer or accountant before you implement anything on my website, right? You're reminding people of just that. So when you have blog posts, you're talking about your amazing offers, your memberships, your courses, the way people can work with you, potential results they might experience, not guaranteed, might experience. You want to make sure that that written disclaimer says, hey, by the way, please make sure you're always checking with your own, whatever the relevant professional is, before you implement anything on my website. Again, we hope people have that level of common sense, but I always recommend you don't want to leave it to other people, right? You want to make sure that you're protected so that if somebody comes along, implements something they find through your blog post or your website, has some kind of an injury, an illness, a negative reaction, you don't want to risk being liable, right? You want to make sure you can just say, please see the disclaimer on my website where I remind you to check with your own relevant professional, right? So it's a great idea to have a disclaimer at the bottom. The third one that's really, really vital is the website terms and conditions. So this is kind of the ground rules for your website. And what I recommend including there are things like, this is where you're going to do content protection, right? You're going to make sure people can't steal your brilliant blog posts, your sales copy that you just spent money on, whatever it is that's on your website. That's all proprietary to you. We want to make sure that people don't steal that. The other huge piece is a dispute resolution provision or paragraph. So as a virtual business, we can have clients anywhere. People that are, people can see our website from literally anywhere that has a Wi-Fi connection, right? Which is amazing for business. Not so amazing when somebody wants to sue us and they do it in their city, state, country. So by having a dispute resolution paragraph on your website, you tell people, hey, any disputes relating to my website are going to need to be resolved where I live. That tiny little sentence can have the potential of saving you thousands of dollars in travel fees, probably tens of thousands in legal fees from having to, hire local counsel wherever. And even if their case is completely meritless, right? Like you're absolutely going to win. They don't know what they're talking about. Chances are you're still going to have to go there to defend yourself and to say this is completely meritless. You're going to have to hire an attorney and do the whole song and dance. So it's much better to do that in your city than theirs. So things like that. The terms and conditions there's a lot more in there, limitations of liability, kind of more of the legalese stuff. But those are the two I like to highlight just to give people a little bit of context as far as like what's actually in those terms. So those are the three: privacy policy, disclaimer, terms and conditions. They all go in the footer of your website. And the piece that most people forget is they also need to go on any opt-in page that you have. So any landing page, sales page, any other page, you need your privacy policy and your disclaimer. Not a bad idea to have the terms and conditions on there. So probably just best practice, like anytime you're creating a new page, pop those documents into the footer, or once they're on your website, you can just link to them. Makes it very easy. Tell your assistant or your web designer, whoever it is that's helping you with this stuff, if you have a team, to just always pop those in.
That's awesome. I love that. So, okay. So we have our homework already. So let's go on to the next question here. So a lot of entrepreneurs have digital products. So with digital products comes a lot of question marks of after the person buys it or signs the contract, what are the terms and conditions as far as, let's say it's a year contract, what can we do to protect ourselves, or a 3-month contract, or whatever the conditions are when they sign on the dotted line? How can we protect ourselves to make sure that is a legal binding contract?
Yeah, so a physical product or a digital product?
Like a service-based product where it's like a course or a coaching experience, something like that.
Yeah. So when you have a course or anything that is a digital product that you're selling directly from your website, so yeah, courses, any sort of ebook, digital thing that somebody can go to your sales page, your website, and buy without you, personally sending them an invoice, anything that they can just buy at any point in time from your website. What you want in that situation is a document called terms of use. That's different from your website terms and conditions, and a lot of people mix that up. They think terms are terms, right? And they're like, oh, my website terms, I'm going to pop that in here. Cool, I've got my terms. It's terms and conditions and terms of use, so it makes complete sense why there's confusion about that. But your website terms and conditions, which we've now kind of illuminated a little bit, talks about your website, right? That's ground rules for what people can and can't do for your website, not paying clients, not customers, not courses, just our website. When people kind of jump over into this client, field, we have to have another document there. So the best way to make sure that everything is where it should be and that people understand your terms as far as a refund policy, the payment plan, ramifications if they don't pay, is your terms of use. That document is going to be on your sales or checkout page. And if you use a third-party site like Kajabi or one of those, you can plug it in there. But what it needs to do is it needs to be right above or near the purchase button, and it has to have a checkbox next to it. And it's going to say something to the effect of, by checking this box, I confirm I have read and agree to the terms of use, right? And then the words terms of use is a link to your program terms of use. Don't link your website terms and conditions. I would say like 90% of people make this mistake. Make sure it's your program terms of use. So that's going to be specific to that course, right? Or whatever the digital product is. It's going to outline the details of the course. I'm just going to say course, but it's any kind of digital product. But the details of the course, how much it costs, if there's a payment plan in place, what does that look like? The thing that everybody always asks about is, like you said, what if someone stops paying or tries to get out of the contract early? Your terms of use is going to outline all of that. So it's going to say, assuming this is what you want it to say, assuming this is how you want to conduct your business, which most people do, that once you purchase, you gain access to the full course, right? Therefore, there's no refunds. Or some people do, 10-day refunds, 30-day refunds, whatever feels right to you is fine, but it just has to be clearly outlined in the terms of use that this is the refund policy. This is how my business works. If you make the payment, you make the purchase, you must complete the payments regardless of your participation, blah, blah, blah. Most people want terms that sound like that in their terms of use so that they know if somebody buys the course and then later just decides like, I'm not going to finish that, they are still liable. They can't just opt out of the payments, right? They have to continue paying. That's all outlined in the terms of use. The other thing I always recommend doing in the terms of use, and this is included in the templates that I have, is a payment plan paragraph where you're talking about, this is the payment plan. This is how much you owe monthly. If you miss a payment, these are the late fees. If you continue not paying, I might send you to collections. Like, it very clearly maps out this like escalation so that somebody doesn't think like, just not going to pay her. Like, they know, assuming they've read the terms of use, which hopefully they do, that, okay, this doesn't just go away. I can't just opt out, right? I'm going to owe late fees. She's going to send me to collections. This might start affecting my credit. I've made a legal purchase here, and I have a responsibility to continue making these payments, right? I hope it's okay. I see Cassandra's question. Can I just answer it real quick? Is that okay to go after? It's perfect timing. So the membership site, I just want to plug this real quick because it's a great question. Membership site terms of use are a little bit different, mainly because when we operate a membership, we are charging people automatically. So we have to, from a legal perspective, it's actually a law or a regulation that we have to make certain disclosures in our terms of use. That's typically, we have to outline and have them agree to an automatic payment plan, the auto renewal subscription model, like Netflix, like any other system like that. You have to do the auto renewal language in your membership site terms of use in order to be a legally compliant membership. You've got to have that in there. Basically, it just outlines, we're going to charge your, the credit card you used every month on XYZ date, and it has to tell them how to cancel. So, email XYZ customer service within, or more than 24 hours before your next payment, and we will cancel for you. If it's less than 24 hours, you will be charged for the next month, and then we'll cancel. Standard terms that most people expect, but you have to, from a legal perspective, you have to have it written. So I know membership sites are kind of big right now. A lot of people are starting to shift into that model. Make sure you have membership site terms of use at the purchase point when people are signing up to be a member, and in the footer of the actual portal or site or wherever the membership site lives. Make sure it's in the footer there so people can refer to it and review it.
That's awesome. That's so good. Well, and a lot of entrepreneurs also have contracts, like let's say a 3-month contract, like service-based entrepreneurs, 6-month, a year. So those are more, we're working one-on-one together. So say, for example, one of the members, Heather, she had a contract with somebody and they just bailed on her. So what would be your advice to somebody that has those one-on-one contracts and something comes up and arises? How can they protect themselves with that?
Yeah, so kind of the same answer in the sense that you want to make sure your contract says all the right things, right? You have to make sure that your contract does what I said about the terms of use in terms of outlines the payment plan, outlines, if they stop payments, here's your late fee, here's your collections, or whatever it is you want to do as a business owner, how you want to go about collecting debt like that. You also want to make it abundantly clear to people that they can't just back out in the beginning. A lot of people I'm seeing in the coaching world, a lot of people are teaching their clients to get the payment first and then the contract is an afterthought, right? I argue exactly the opposite. You want to give them, legally, you're supposed to give them the contract first, right? Because that's the offer. If you take payment first, deal's done, technically they don't have to sign a contract, right? It's an oral agreement, you're hosed. So you always want to give them the contract first and say, this is what I'm proposing to you. It's a 3-month deal, it's a 6-month deal, it's a 12-month deal, whatever. And the contract would say, in nicer language, you can't back out. Like, this is, $2,000 a month, 2 payments of whatever. And that's how this is going to work. If you choose to cancel, whatever, like some people have, if somebody wants to cancel, fine, but there's a cancellation fee, or, they're still responsible for the full amount. So whatever it is you want to do as a business owner, again, that's up to you. From a legal perspective, there's no requirement in terms of what you can and can't do. It just has to be made clear to the prospective client, so they understand, okay, if I'm going to work with Christy, I know that it's a $12,000 investment. I'm going to make, 3 payments on this date, and this date. And if I back out, I'm still going to owe the money. So that needs to be clear. I think that's missed a lot in the initial discovery call, because people are so concerned with making the sale, getting that credit card number. We kind of miss the foundation of the relationship, right? So then if you do it right, if somebody later wants to back out, they know, right? They're going to say, hey, I want to back out, or I can't do this anymore. I understand there's this, cancellation fee, or I understand I have to keep making payments. They already know. It's not a shock. They're not upset. All the cards have been laid out first. And so it's a much easier process. Nobody is surprised when they say, oh, I'm not going to keep paying you. Why would I keep paying you? Everybody knows ahead of time.
I love that. Well, and a lot of people have in-person events, and with everything that has happened in the world, that has obviously changed. So how can we protect ourselves moving forward with in-person events? If we say no refunds, is there anything additional that we need to do, or would that be also the terms of use and just making sure that's very, very clear when they purchase?
So if you're selling tickets to a live event post COVID-19, I recommend a very hefty liability waiver, right? So that they understand the risks that we now, are probably going to be a part of our society, the risks of coming into close contact with people, and that you're not responsible. They're doing so. It's called assumption of the risk. That's the legal kind of phrase. But basically, they're understanding, I'm choosing to go to this event. I understand there's going to be 300 people there. I understand that it's going to be less than 6 feet away. It's my decision to wear a mask or not, whatever we're going to be doing here in the following months and years. But basically, you want them to understand and agree to in writing that they understand those risks. They're choosing to proceed anyway, and signing something that says, that's to that effect. As far as giving refunds, when people understand that, that these are the risks, we're going forward with the event anyway, I think it's fine to say no refunds. If there was some sort of issue, like that happened when everything with COVID happened, like a lot of people were like, I have a live event, now I can't hold it. What am I supposed to do? You want to make sure that something like that is in your contract, right? A lot of it, people are very familiar with the term force majeure now. It's like the random provision in the contract that never applied before now, where it's like if there's some act of God, like some horrible weather, some plague, pandemic, which surprise, here it is, but something that prevents, due to no fault of the event organizer, that prevents the event from happening. Another one is if the event venue burns down, or somehow it's not possible to do the thing anymore. Your contract needs to address that. So if that were to happen, would you give everybody their money back? Would you postpone it? Would you hold it virtual? Would you, like, what's the plan B? And then I would recommend putting that in the contract as well. So the assumption of the risk piece and the plan B piece, right? What's going to happen if for some reason this event can't go forward in the place that we thought or in the way that we thought? You don't necessarily, like I said, you don't necessarily have to give refunds, but you need to have some sort of plan so that people understand, okay, you know, if we can't do this event, I don't expect my money back, but I know we're going to do it virtual or whatever the plan B is.
Yeah. And I think like my experience is that like when you sign a lease for an office building or an apartment, like I feel like everyone takes that so seriously, or the majority take it very seriously. But when it comes to like service-based businesses or events, I feel like people try to take advantage of entrepreneurs. So as our last question, which I think we'll cover a lot, how can we make sure that we're being firm, but we're also not being bullied around to, you know, this is our livelihood, and this is how we're able to give back to the world and donate to charities. So how can we make sure that we're firm and we don't get bullied?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a great question. Number one is know your rights, right? Understand you guys are all doing the right thing by watching this and being here. Know the legal stuff, right? Because I think a lot of people, that feeling of being bullied comes from not knowing what to do. Like feeling like I see the person commenting, it doesn't tell me who you are, it just says Facebook user, but says, you know, the person just bailed. At some point, they need to know that's not okay, right? So what can we do in that sense? My 2 cents on it is, from the beginning, have it be a serious venture, right? So when you sign a lease, there's a big contract. You sit down with the person. They talk about, you know, the XYZ, the important provisions. You can't just leave. Here's, you know, like, this is the deal. And you sign knowing those things, right? So that later you can't be like, I'm not going to pay, not into it anymore. Like, nobody would do that, like you said. So I encourage people to treat it, whether it's your first client or your millionth, treat it like you run a massive successful business and these are your onboarding procedures, right? Call them onboarding procedures, even if it's just you in your bedroom and it's your first client, right? These are my company's onboarding procedures. Like, get used to that, like, big placement, right? You are here. These are your onboarding procedures. If this person it doesn't have to be mean. You don't have to be a jerk about it, but like, welcome to my onboarding procedure, right? There's going to be an orientation. Like, here's the contract. Here are all the terms. Here's how this works. Here's how payment works. Here's, you know, the fine print about you can't back out. And get that on the table, just like a sit down with a landlord would be. Or buying a car or buying a house. I mean, my God, there's like the stack of paper for that is like 3 inches thick. You don't have to do that, right? It doesn't have to be this big, giant undertaking. But you need a contract that's correct. It's not something you copy and pasted from other stuff online that you kind of hope makes sense, because people can see that, right? That's the other thing that, if you'll allow me to digress for 30 seconds, that people can tell the level of professionalism, right? Just as we can as consumers, right? If you get a contract from somebody and like the fonts are different, like the defined terms are different, like they go from being called the name of their business to company to now their employer to now, like, people pick up on that like, all right, well, this person this contract probably isn't legitimate, so I'm going to sign it. And like, who knows if it's going to stand up in any sort of court. Like, that's the sort of message that you're sending them, right? When you have something that's pieced together, that's what you're putting into the world. Is like, maybe it works, right? It's kind of a so-so. And I think a lot of times that brings in or returns the response of like, not going to pay you. Not always, but I think that when we get this stuff done correctly and we have onboarding procedures and somebody's given a very nice contract, it's very clear, it's very succinct, it's obviously done right, and somebody put a lot of time and effort into making sure it was done correctly, I think you give off a different vibe, right? This person's like, oh wow, like she's here seriously. This is a serious program. It's going to make them excited about it, and it's also going to make them understand, I can't just like decide I'm not into it anymore. Like, this is a commitment. And once everybody understands that on both sides, I think you have a better chance of somebody not thinking that it's okay to just walk away. And from the person who says, the person just bailed and didn't think it was worth taking to court. It depends on how much money was at stake. If you get a lawyer involved, they can write a strongly worded letter to them saying, this is a breach of contract under paragraph 4C, you're in violation of this, which just is mean sounding language for like, this is the part that says you have to pay and you didn't. And then say, you have 30 days to bring your account current, or we will be forced to take further legal action. You don't have to specify what that further legal action is. It could be collections, it could be small claims court, it could be whatever you want. But a lot of times, a letter like that sounds like it has legal knowledge in it, if it has the correct terminology, somebody will go, like, okay, I did sign that contract. I owe her the other $6,000. Like, I don't want to be taken to court. I don't want to be sued. Fine, here you go. So a lot of times that reminder that like you signed a legally binding agreement and per our terms, this is what you still owe me, whatever. So that can help too. If you don't want to just go straight to court, there's other ways that you can try to kind of handle it that doesn't involve just going straight to a judge.
No, I love that. And I loved when you said know your rights, and that there's confidence when we know more, right? And so I feel like we could talk all day, but I want to be mindful of your time, Christy. And I think this is a great start to the conversation, but this can't be the only conversation. So I know that you have an amazing offering for everyone watching, so that way they can take the next step with you. So can you share what that is?
Yes. So I have my free legal checklist. The link is going to be posted around this video. It basically gives you a one-page reference guide to the legal document you need for whatever it is that you're doing. So if you need a website, here's the 3 documents. If you're working with clients one-on-one, here's what you need, event, course, whatever. It connects you to the right document. So that's going to be available completely free for you to download, print out, paste above your computer, and you will always know the legal answer. And then for anybody interested, I do sell these templates in a bundled pack. So it gives you all 6 templates that you need to start an online consulting or coaching business, as well as access to me with additional questions for, how to fill it out, how to plug it into your website or within your program or whatever. So those are the 2 offers for you. One's free, one's paid. And I would love to welcome you all into my community of legal happiness and educate you guys.
I love that. Legal happiness. That's so good.
It doesn't have to be horrible and scary, I swear.
That's true. And I think
I'm pretty fun.
You are so fun. And there's this is such an asset for our business, and it's a way to protect us. And I loved at the beginning when you said this is a way better cost than going to court and spending so much of your time and energy and money. So I'm really excited for everyone to not only get that checklist, but also really think about getting the bundle, because it is so helpful to know that we're protected and that we are growing our business with all of that protection around us. So I thank you so much for being here. And please know, you watching the video, this does not replace legal counsel. This is supposed to be a guide and a support to you. So I encourage you to reach out to Christy or your own legal counsel to continue the conversation, but make sure that we get protected and we can serve and support even more people for decades to come.
Yes.
Anything last that you want to say, Christy?
I think just congratulate yourselves for watching this. I think a lot of times people shy away from legal because they're like, oh, I know I need it, but I feel like it's scary and overwhelming and I don't know. And people just kind of stick their head in the sand or avoid it. So thank you guys for watching this. Thank you for taking the first step. And hopefully it is the first step in getting your business legally protected. I promise you it's not as scary or hard or expensive as you think. And most people find it empowering, and they find that they end up feeling a lot more confident about their business and their services once they know the right legal pieces are in place.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. We respect your time so much. So as a challenge to everyone watching this, I want you to go to Christy's Facebook page and give her a shout out and thank her for her time today. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye. Thanks so much.